All right, it's rivalry week. The last day of rivalry games. They started yesterday. Had some awesome games last night. We can talk about them a little bit and then get into what's going to happen today. Real quickly, we're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. Give us a like on Facebook. Subscribe. Hit the bells on YouTube so you can stay caught up with what we're doing here in the College Football Corner. The freshly haircut Randy has been so able to join. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. So, how you doing this Saturday morning?
Doing okay.
What'd you think about last night?
Well, I think I texted you at one point. I don't think there was any really big surprises as far as Georgia and Ole Miss and even the Iowa Nebraska game. But I will talk a little bit about the Texas A&M game. That game, I don't know. I think I texted you and I said, man, I've never seen a team try so hard to lose a game. We're going into late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, and first of all, Texas A&M, they're in midfield each one of these plays, and the first one they got third, a yard and a half, and they throw a long bomb that he throws 10 yards out of bounds. Well, down the sidelines. But then the very next series, they come back and they're going to go for it on fourth down, fourth and less than a yard, and they jump off sides. I'm like,
Yeah,
what's going on here? And then the very next series, they come down and it's fourth and inches, and they let time expire, and they get back up 5 yards, and I'm like, what? What in the world are you guys doing? I mean, I was like, man, do you really? Could you try any harder to lose this game? That crucial point here, the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, and of course, Texas took advantage of all that.
yeah.
Yeah, it just that. Yeah, you gonna start that again, you crazy man. Yeah, so I was just like, that was a weird series. Not just once, but three times in a row. I just thought that was. I thought that was a strange look for that to go down that way, but
And that's A&M's first loss period, right? They're undefeated.
yeah,
So that doesn't knock them out of the SEC championship game, does it? Because they still have the only team they lost to is Texas, and Texas can't
yeah,
get in.
it does. It puts Georgia in the SEC championship.
But Georgia's got one loss too, right? In
Right.
the SEC.
Yeah, but they win the whatever the whatever the criteria is for the tiebreaker and all that kind of stuff.
Is it because? Is it? I guess it's because Georgia beat Texas,
I
right?
think so. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So I was, and then the other team who they playing is Alabama, as long as they win, right?
yeah. If Alabama wins, they play Alabama. If Alabama loses, they
People,
play Ole Miss.
Ole Miss.
Yeah.
It's
So
good.
so Texas A&M. I mean, they're in with
Right.
with one loss. They're in, but they spared themselves playing in that SEC championship, which would have been a very tough game,
Yep.
regardless of which of those three teams that they ran up against. And uh, like I said, I mean that's been a year, the year of weird, like you called it, and um, officiating has been questionable a lot this year, and then that series of plays to me was questionable. I mean, maybe they just screwed
Wow.
three times in a row, but yeah, it's been like you called it the year of weird, and you couldn't have been more correct.
I mean, that was an emotional game. There's no doubt. Like all these games this week are the rivalry games, the emotions in them. Even I mean, Indiana Purdue, there's a lot of emotion, but the score didn't reflect it. Indiana just absolutely,
Right, right.
completely El Spenkarooski'd Purdue. Purdue fought long and hard to try to make it look somewhat interesting, but for the most part, that game was nothing. And then Ole Miss just took care of the Egg Bowl without a problem, and they dominated really well last night. So, but Georgia, in a dogfight with Georgia Tech last night, 16-9, I think. Credit to Georgia Tech for making it interesting, and Georgia getting the win. So, good games yesterday. There's no doubt. One tight game, a couple of blowouts, but all interesting all the way around. So we get into today, and we're looking at the game at noon, Ohio State, Michigan, and then the 3:30 game is the Iron Bowl, right?
No, they're
Or is it at night? Okay, then it's the There's another SEC game at 3:30, isn't there? I got it
So
right here. I got it right here. Um, See, I'm sorry. The Big Ten, Oregon and Washington's at 3:30. That's kind of a rivalry game, and that's got implications. LSU and Oklahoma is the SEC with 3:30. So, but yeah,
right.
Oregon wants to win to keep their. If they lose that game, they'll probably have a tough time staying in the CFP race. They got one loss now, so only to Indiana. So they're going to be looking to win. Miami is going to be trying to play their way in. Sark was putting up a big campaign for Texas last night with 3 losses. And, I understand coaches advocating for the teams. That's what you expect them to do. But realistically, I don't think you can sit there and say just because you played Ohio State, even if you lost, which they did, because you played that game, that you shouldn't be killed by it. You lost to Florida. It wasn't an Ohio State game that lost anything for you. It was a Florida game, really.
Yeah.
And the fact that it was a total of 3. So, beat Florida for crying out loud. You have no reason to lose that game. I picked it. I remember that week. So,
Well, that's what's going to cause pressure, in my opinion. They got blown out by Georgia. Well, it happened in the fourth quarter, but you get blown out, you get blown out.
right.
And the loss to Florida. I mean, those two. It's not a bad loss to Georgia, but the fact the way you lost to Georgia and they get beat by Florida, who's 3-8.
Right. Right.
So, I mean, that's going to keep them out. They're sitting there with 3 losses. And you got a whole bunch of 2-loss teams in front of you, which
Oh, yeah.
that could change up today. But still, even if it does, I don't know that it still doesn't put them in that top 12.
Yeah.
You also have Vanderbilt and Tennessee.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's another good game. And Vandy's trying to, they go out there and drop a big one on Tennessee. That's going to look real nice for them. Maybe trying to slide in as an at-large team with only 2 losses. And Pavi, I guess, last week threw for over 400 yards or something. I mean, his arm is coming along, so that's in there. And he is. I think he should be considered for the Heisman. I think he's had that kind of a year, but who knows who says? But
Yeah, he's had an incredible year.
yeah, so
I think he's definitely in the conversation.
so we got Ohio State, Michigan, noon kick. It's going to start snowing about 1. They say it's going to be some weather up there. I know Ohio State is going to the CFP regardless. Michigan wins. There's some mathematics that can happen with Oregon losing to get Michigan in as another team in the Big Ten, but a lot of that I think depends on what happens in other places as well. But that being aside, Ohio State's got to win this game. They got to put this thing to bed. This four-game losing streak, because before that it was an 8-game winning streak. So a lot of people they never want to talk about that, but that's nice 4-game winning streak you got. But it ends today. Ohio State wins. That's my pick. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean certainly. Michigan has that hanging over Ohio State's head.
Yep.
Those 4 losses in a row, and I had said before, I think certainly last year, Ohio State had the better team.
Yeah.
And they certainly have the better team this year. And it seems like that they've kind of turned the corner after that game last year when they lost to Michigan, obviously, went in the national championship. And Cat, where are you?
It's the Cat Show. I hope that cat gets us some ratings.
Yeah. So anyways, they got the hang over their head, but I think Ohio State seems like they're rolling right now. That's once they got past that game last year, they turned it on, won the championship.
Yeah, Tate and Smith are back this week. So if anybody's asking, not that there was any real drama, but they're back this week and they should be fine and healthy. I think they were just being held out for minor things. I don't think it was anything major because they're not going to put kids at risk, if it's something that could back it happen. So,
well, they didn't need to play against Rutgers
or Purdue, right? So,
coming back at the right time in a big game, they should be. Yeah, I got Ohio State winning by 2 scores in that game.
So what do you see today? What do you want to see today out of any particular game? And do you have a thought on the Lane Kiffin announcement whenever that comes. Announcements are all the big thing now, right? I guess the announcement's coming from LeBron or whatever, you know.
Well, I think the Lane Kiffin thing. I kind of agree with. I kind of agree with what Nick Saban said. College football kind of created this. I don't think you should be able to contact anybody in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, which is even more critical. So here you have Ole Miss sitting there with one loss, sitting in a great position, that they have all this hoopla and excitement and everything that's going on with their coach. Um, which is, I mean, I feel bad for Ole Miss, having to deal with all that.
Right.
But on the other hand, you look, the rules are what the rules. They can contact these guys, they get a hold of them, and somebody's offering you an outrageous amount of money. You have to look at that. I mean, you have
Yep.
to consider it. I mean, I can't say that money's everything when you already have millions, but uh, you know that's an awful lot of money to secure your future. We're talking. Well, last I heard was 95 million or better in that deal with LSU.
I did hear that.
So at LSU, if I don't know if you noticed, if you saw it, I'm sure you did. But, they also killed the thing with Brian Kelly.
Yep.
What they did, it was not. It was okay. We're going to pay you your money, and so all that leading right into the Lane Kiffin thing, getting that job done. I'm gonna make the assumption that Lane Kiffin's probably going to jump to LSU for the money and stuff. But it kind of puts a bad mark on him with the way he left Tennessee, fired at USC, and now this leaving the program right in the thick of things, sitting there with his one loss, certainly a contender for the CFP championship.
Yeah, it's I saw the documentary on him, and I thought, man, I think he's changed. He said the what's that? The city, where Ole Miss, the city they're in, they're Oxford, I think it is. That they slow down. Things aren't hustle and bustle, and he's learned to be a slower version of himself, but more laid back, more appreciative of where you're at, and what's going on. It all made it sound like, man, he loves where he's at. His daughter came living with him, but I feel like, man, if you're not going anywhere, why not just like everybody else has done? I'm not going anywhere. They've all, Signetti has said it. Matt Rule has said it. Everybody's come out and said, I ain't leaving, I ain't leaving, I ain't leaving. And he hasn't. And now we got this decision, which I agree with what you were saying and Saban. The fact that this even is being talked about like this means there has been tampering going on, because you shouldn't be able to do this. So that's kind of a bad look. And yeah, he's probably going to go somewhere. And unfortunately, he more than likely is going to go somewhere and be there about 4 or 5 years if it's LSU, not win the national championship, probably get fired. And it's not because he's a good or bad coach. It's because, man, it is tough in the SEC. If he goes anywhere, I would go out of the conference, go somewhere where it's easier to win, because it's going to be tough just as Ole Miss, although he's got a great chance to do it this year. His team is really good, really phenomenal. So he might even win it this year. And then you're gonna leave. So I'd love to see him stay. I really would, but I agree. I don't think he is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. But like I said, the fact that it's an outrageous amount of money.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to look at the options. Yeah, like I said, I hate it for. I hate it for Ole Miss. I hate it for college football.
Yeah.
As far as that, for the way this thing is going down, it's really kind of aggravating. But like I said, I mean, they created it. They allow this to happen, and there's certain things in college football that they need to button up. In my opinion,
Did you?
the whole NFL thing, the whole transfer portal, the whole being able to contact coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches, leading programs in the thick of the season and the middle of the season. And, going back, if you're saying that, go somewhere else where you don't have that pressure, I don't know if anybody else can afford that kind of money.
Well, no, the 95. No, there's probably 4 schools that could potentially have that kind of cash. And I mean, USC could be one, Michigan could be one, Ohio State, obviously, maybe Penn State. I'm not sure. Indiana all of a sudden's got money, got the yin yang with Mark Cuban. All the billionaires are coming out. Texas Tech, I guess, has a lot of money. So you're right. And a lot of the schools that could do it, there's only one looking for somebody. That's LSU. The rest of them aren't really looking. They got their guys. But
Yeah.
did you hear the rumor? And I say rumor because I don't think there's anything to it. But you never know. Sometimes when there's smoke, there's fire. That the reason why Kalen DeBoer's name was being pushed out for Penn State is because he's going to go to Penn State and Lane Kiffin's going to Alabama.
Sounds good to me.
You're on board.
I mean, I think that Caleb, he's going to jump right back into the hot seat today. And I said it the other day. I'll say it again today. Bad matchup for Alabama at Auburn at night. Their record at Auburn is not good. Out of the last 10, three out of 7. Just another bad matchup with their defense and the fact that Alabama's lack of a running game and
Right.
the downfall of Ty Simpson. No other way to put it than that. He hasn't performed like he did, the first 8 games.
And they're on the road at Jordan Hare.
Yeah, so a lot of bad things. Of course, I mean, if Alabama's going to show up, play well, be fired up, really want this game. But yeah, I mean, it's just another tough matchup for him. Don't be surprised at all at the end of the day. And that's the other aggravating thing. At midnight, don't be surprised if Auburn wins that game, because those late games go on forever. How it takes a 60-minute football game 4 hours to play is beyond me. But,
Right.
That's the way it is, because you got to have 5 minutes of commercials every time they take a break. So
Yep. And Texas, to a certain degree, they're pulling for Alabama to lose. Not that that's going to put them in, although that's their argument is they're a better 3-loss team than Alabama would be on paper. But I think it just slides another 2-loss team ahead of both of them if that were to happen. But
I mean, there's too many other teams that have an argument other than Texas.
right.
Texas is trying to hang their hat on the fact that we lost to Ohio State, the number 1 team in the country, and now we beat undefeated Texas A&M. And Texas A&M was undefeated. I don't know what a feat that is. I mean, Texas A&M has had a pretty favorable schedule. They didn't
True.
They didn't have to see Georgia. They didn't have to see Alabama. They had that. They had that going down there at South Carolina a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, where they were just outrageous.
Oh, yeah.
Ended up coming back and winning, but
I would say A&M's best win is probably Oklahoma. Yeah. No. Yeah.
in my conspiracy theory, and that's all it is a conspiracy theory of my very own, of them not wanting to play this.
Did they beat Oklahoma? Where's my brain at? No, Texas' best win is Oklahoma, not A&M. Texas' best win is Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But they got the ugly loss. Florida just kills it. If they were a 2-loss team, having lost Ohio State and beat Oklahoma, I think they'd be looking fine. Although, just looking at them, they haven't looked like a great team all year. They've been an up and down team.
Oh, they have been up and down. And even if you look like last night, 50% of his passes, he was like 14 for 30, something like that. Not an outstanding performance. They basically did it with the running game.
Right.
First time all year they've had over 100 yards rushing.
Yep.
And like I said, I go back to my with the whole Texas A&M thing. That the way it went down and some of the plays, and I know that stuff can happen in college football. Just the timing of it was just not very good for Texas A&M. But I don't think it's any way Texas gets in. Texas A&M was going to be in regardless. That was the thing with Texas A&M, Ohio State, who's Indiana. I mean,
Right.
Those 3 teams are in them regardless of what. today.
Yes. Yeah, I certainly concur with that. I know Arizona State got beat last night by Arizona, kind of surprisingly to a certain degree to some people.
Yeah.
Arizona's kind of a very quiet 9-3 team or whatever they are. So that put BYU and Texas Tech in the Big 12 championship. They're definitely going to play for that next week or 2 weeks from now. Or no, that's next week. So it'll be interesting if BYU can win that game to get in. Do they hold Texas Tech out? Because they've had a pretty good year. Yeah, they've looked better, I think, than BYU has looked, but we'll see. And then, of course, the ACC big game today with Pitt playing Miami. This is Miami's last chance to just absolutely go out and shine and dominate somebody and say, hey, we're still a good 2-loss team. And I think Miami's probably the one team that will benefit from Texas being a 3-loss team. And if somebody else is a 3-loss, Alabama, whatever, that favors probably Miami way before it favors 3-loss Texas or even 2-loss Michigan or whomever, So because Miami's, I think the committee likes them and they're high enough ranked, but they got to beat Pitt. Pitt is no walk in the park, and it's at Pitt, so it's not down in South Florida. So,
well, and in that game, to me, it's which Carson Beck shows up.
right.
Is it the Carson Beck that we've seen at times that could be a potential Heisman candidate at one point, but then he comes out with these games where it looks like he never even seen football before.
Yeah.
Just so which Carson Beck shows up for that game, that's going to depend a whole lot of what happens with Miami against Pitt. I mean, Pitt certainly. They're a solid team, so that's a pretty interesting game. But I still think it comes down to which Carson Beck shows up.
Yeah, they didn't look good against Notre Dame, Pitt, but boy, they looked good last week. And it's like maybe they really didn't try to show up against Notre Dame. I don't know. I mean, they kind of blew that game off. The coach, who cares what because that game don't matter. The next two do, and they killed last week, and they got this one this week, and that's so their defense is like that. We'll probably see the bad Carson Beck.
Yeah. See, that's the problem. That's what I was kind of getting at with that Texas A&M thing. When you have games like that late in the season, where you have a team, coming out, it doesn't matter or this or that. Come on, man, this is college football, man.
Right.
These kids, it ain't like they're all going to the pros in the NFL and playing. You got maybe one or two guys on each team, possibly.
True.
Well, I know some of the upper teams get more, but you come out and you play every week. You play hard every week. You play to win every week. And that kind of comment, that kind of outlook, and we are kind of seeing that. Well, it don't matter. It don't matter if we, that's America that we live in now today. It don't matter. That one doesn't matter.
Right.
Somebody else's fault, anyways.
Yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, that's just like I said. I can't. The only way to come. You called this season just the way it was, and you called it early. The season.
Year of weird.
Yeah, it certainly has been that. That's for sure. So yeah, I just don't know, but games today. I didn't realize all those games were being played yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm looking like, wow, half of these games are being played today, which are fine with me. But we got Ohio State, Michigan. I'm taking Ohio State by 2 scores. I know you're hoping Ohio State will win.
Oh yeah.
You may be reluctant to say so, but
yeah.
Oregon and Washington. I'm taking Oregon. Oregon has really looked good at times.
They've, especially the last couple of weeks, they're ending the year going this way. So,
LSU at Oklahoma, all the things that LSU has gone through. Oklahoma with a couple of big wins, and they proved that they don't have to have a great offense to win. So, I'm taking Oklahoma in a close game on that one. Vanderbilt and Tennessee. That's kind of a toss up for me, but I think Tennessee at home is going to end up pulling that game out.
That's what I'm thinking. Or if not, it just means they're just not quite where we thought they were with the whole quarterback switcheroo in the offseason and all that. They came out of the first of the year. Tennessee was rolling. I'm like, wow, they don't miss Neil Maliava at all. but they've had some ups and downs. Their team just doesn't quite look quite like they were last year, and so they're at home. If there's a Vandy, I'd probably be picking Vandy, but they're at Tennessee. I think they want to end it. Let's go out there and win this one, knock them out.
Right.
So yeah, I would take Tennessee. That environment, crazy 100-something thousand stadium, it's hard to overcome that.
Yeah. And then we have the Auburn Alabama game. Not real thrilled about that. I'm not real thrilled about the way things have gone for Alabama. I mean, they've had some big wins this year, and I guess what would be considered a good season for most people. But we're talking Alabama over the last
Right.
15 years, 16 years, whatever. And all of a sudden, the opportunity to be pushed out of the playoff, 12-team playoff hit you.
Yep.
Didn't like it when they were knocked out of the 14 playoff.
Right.
We're a pretty spoiled fan base, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But here we are looking at that possibly happening again, and like I said, not a good matchup on the road at night. I'm taking Auburn with Alabama with a chance to win it, and they missed the field goal at the end. Close game. That's how I'm calling this one.
Now, is this? I know that you call it square. The way you see it in the matchups. Is there also any? This is just the beginning of we need to get DeBoer out of there, or 2 years in a row. If he goes into the final weeks and loses the ability to get in the CFP by losing games they should win, especially OU last year and all that, is that going to be a bad hit for him?
Well, I mean, it's certainly, like I said earlier, I think it certainly puts him right back on the hot seat. Maybe it would be best if he does have an opportunity. We don't know that he does at Penn State or whatever. Maybe it's best for him to jump ship and move. I was never completely sold on the guy. After we got through the first part of the season, it seemed like he was settling in. But we talked about it before. My issue with Alabama, and I think I look at it as realistic as anybody could.
Sure.
Is we still haven't seen a running game. They still seem to make every game close, even those wins they had. They beat four teams that were four ranked teams in a row, which that was at the time. No team had done that.
Right.
This and that, but they were all really close games. Every one of them, Georgia,
Yep.
really close games. Some of them I didn't think had to be that close, but they couldn't close them out.
Right.
So all those games were close. So Alabama's sitting right there where they could have a couple more losses possibly.
Yep.
Like on the flip side of it, on Auburn, certainly could have had a couple more wins because they have been the same way, very, very close, but they've lost.
Right.
Those games where Alabama has won those games. So, I mean, I'm certainly pulling for Alabama. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jumping ship
Right.
but I am. But I do try to call it like it is. And from what I've seen, Ty Simpson, I thought, man, this guy is great now. And if you remember last week, I said, man, I'd like to see that Keelan Russell get in there and kind of see what he can do. Because they had that big blowout against UD or Wright State or whoever. And I mean, he looked good, but
Mercer or Eastern Illinois or something.
Everybody looked good last week.
Right.
That had lesser teams as they should. So I mean, that's just kind of the way I see that. And I'll go back to since an Alabama fan and Ohio State fan, I'll go back to the Ohio State thing, and I think Ohio State is good. I've had my issues with Ohio State over the years, but it mostly goes back because of the fans at Urban Meyer. That's what I didn't like about Ohio State. And of course, I caught a bunch of crap being an Alabama fan. But, the fact, Julian saying, I really like him. Caleb Downs, of course, from Alabama. And I've told you this several times.
He loves the Alabama transfers.
You're welcome. I just think that they are a better team than Michigan. Michigan has played well. We know that the defense. So I think they still have some running backs hurt.
Their Marshall's back. Their main guy, Justice Haynes, he's out for the season, or at least out for the regular season. If they get to a postseason, Marshall was out last week because they didn't need him at Maryland, and he's back this week. Basically, talk about matchups. I do believe that Michigan is not a great matchup for Ohio State because they are wanting to pound the rock. So it comes down to Ohio State's just got to own the trenches and stop the run and make them earn it in the passing game. That's where they're weakest. And of course, the quarterback runs well, but he doesn't have the great arm, and that would be a strength for Ohio State. But in the last 4 years, they've been able to cram it down our throat. So if they are running and we don't stop them, it could be a long day for the Buckeyes, and it may not end up the way they wanted to, honestly. But
Well,
I'm root for the Buckeyes for sure.
yeah, I think the things that can change that are obviously two good defenses. I mean, Michigan always plays good defense.
Oh yeah,
Obviously, they always play good defense. The weather
yeah.
can come into play there, like you were saying, looking at snow, going into the second
And
quarter,
wind.
that,
Yep.
and all that stuff. So, I mean, all that could certainly come into play. And I've been surprised before. Matter of fact, the last couple of years in that game, where I thought that Ohio State would be fine, and Michigan, came through. Other than the one year that Michigan won the championship, of what 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years.
Right. 23. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Michigan certainly had they had a chance in that game. They probably were the better team at that point, but in the other games, I don't think that they were, but they're still able to win.
Yep.
Kind of like what Oklahoma's doing with beating Alabama and beating Tennessee, and just kind of hanging in there. That's kind of what Michigan did. They hung in there and took a whatever you want to call it, a puncher.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but I still think, I mean, barring that the weather is a huge factor, that could change things for Ohio State.
Well, it could be the ultimate neutralizer. If it's so bad that nobody can pass, then both teams got to chin strap it up and run the football. And with the weather being that way, if it gets like that, that's not good for either one team because you'd rather have a nice track. So it just comes down to who wants it more and who's got the horses to do it. Ohio State's got a stable running backs. The styles are different. Ohio State's got a scheme blocking finesse team, and Michigan's more of a trap blocking. So it'll be interesting. It really will. But that weather could be a big factor, especially in the second half of the game. There's no doubt.
Well, I still got Ohio State a couple scores there. I don't think nobody's been able to really run on Ohio State this year. I don't think Michigan's going to be able to. They might have a little bit of success, not enough. But I mean, that's just kind of the way I see this weekend kind of playing out. Can't say there's like any big surprises so far. Don't know that there'll be any surprises today other than the Auburn Alabama game that I'm calling. That would be an upset.
Yeah, I think LSU winning would be a surprise, especially on the road. I don't think they're going to do it, but that would surprise me. If Pitt upset Miami, I wouldn't be super surprised, but that would be okay. Miami's now finally just done three losses. That's it. No, don't have to worry about trying to fit them in anymore. So it could be some interesting games today and how they affect tomorrow or Tuesday's poll. Then, of course, next weekend's championship weekend, and that's going to give us the final poll. And we'll talk about, think about doing a show that's going to really, we'll set you guys up what we think is going to happen going into championship weekend and how everything's going to play out and who's going to move where. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, the big thing is going to be how will those championship games affect the standings and the
Right.
GDP. That's what it's going to come down to. And we've had some conversation about that. We'll have more on our next show of how they're going to look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Tough to penalize the team championship game when you've got 8-10 other teams just sitting at home watching. So
Yeah, there's no doubt.
That'll be an interesting conversation when we get to have that show.
No doubt. All right, let's wrap it up for today so we can get to the couch. It's a long walk to the couch. So enjoy the games. It's rivalry week. Watch as many as you can because they're all good. I was watching them last night, and I didn't have a dog in a fight, but they were great games to watch. Even the blowouts were they're hard hitting because all these teams hate each other. Mutual, respectful hate, for the most part. And 3 really good ones today. Probably 4 or 5 good ones, but some of you might have to put a picture-in-picture on. So, what's that?
Just real quick. One
Sure.
of the best games yesterday, I don't know if you caught it or not, was Boise State.
Oh, that's one I didn't really see a whole lot of. But yeah, they played.
I seen the end of it.
Who'd they play? Do you remember?
Utah State.
It might be Utah. Utah played Kansas.
I think it was Utah State or something. But it was like a 1 point game.
Let me see here. We got Friday. Here we go. Indiana, Purdue, Utah played Kansas. I guess I gotta get out of the top 25 to get Boise State's score.
Utah State.
What they're like what Mountain West probably. Boise State, yeah, Utah State, 25-24.
Yeah, Utah State, Boise State, 25-24. That was a good game.
They're all good. This is the best week of football. So, it's regular season.
We'll wrap it up. We'll be talking.
All right. So enjoy the games. Don't forget thumbs up on Facebook and the bells for subscriptions and subscribe and notifications and all that on YouTube. Enjoy the games, and we will probably see you Wednesday, which will be after the next CFP rankings, to talk about what's coming up next weekend. So until then, everybody, enjoy the games and have a great weekend. Happy Thanksgiving.